Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Hey, welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents, the podcast where we dive into the business side of running a law firm. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for law firms, and each week we talk with industry experts who help law firm leaders think differently about growth, profitability, and performance so they can build practices that last. Today we welcome Cara Rosenthal-Knapp. Cara is the founder and chief legal and strategy officer of Expert Radiology, a rapidly scaling national radiology company operating at the intersection of healthcare, technology, and law. Her work centers on building systems that simplify complex information in environments where accuracy, credibility, and comprehension directly impact outcomes. Cara, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, I love people's origin stories, so I'd like you to walk me through law school all the way to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I graduated from law school what feels like forever ago now, a couple decades it's been. Prior to law school, I was actually already sort of in my career. So I decided to go back to law school. I actually went by night, working full time in what I thought was going to be where I would work forever, which was in disaster response and recovery services. I was director of government relations, so kind of government strategy, positioning of contracts. And then, life happens and things change. I got married, I had kids, I moved away to Puerto Rico, where we live now. And I had a consulting practice for a while and really kind of had to dig in and regroup and figure out, okay, well, now that I'm not necessarily on the ground based out of Florida and working for this one particular company, what should I do? So I went out on my own, and they actually were my very first client. But through that work, I sort of realized that I have this cool niche operation of knowledge and space in where kind of law, strategy, and really operations converge. So a few years ago, I sort of dug into an area where I feel firms, particularly personal injury firms, struggle, which is operationally. So I got, my husband is Dr. Avery Knapp Jr. He's a neuroradiologist who's been in the medical legal space for some time. And I popped up a telemedicine company a few years ago. And what I did was started triaging patients so that patients who were recently injured could get a good medical assessment and sort of be sent then onwards and on their way. And we helped tens of thousands of patients and very, very quickly in just a few years. But I realized it wasn't really solving the crux issue that a lot of law firms have, which is setting that medical necessity journey in a standardized, formatted, effective way that really moves the needle on settlements. So then I came back and joined forces with my husband and came in-house for Expert Radiology. And over my time here, I've been working really closely on the personal injury ecosystem. And discovered that the stall out with cases really isn't the result of bad lawyering at all. They stall because there's medical ambiguity at times, and basically that it impacts the financial side of a case life cycle and their strategy completely. So now I'm here working with Expert Radiology, pushing out a product that is game-changing, disruptive, MRI report. We didn't do it for personal injury. We did it for patient comprehension, for the advancement of patients everywhere to better understand their medical care. But the result of it is that it has a huge impact for law firms that use it because it's reducing time on desk, it's improving settlement values, and that's all cash flow. That's really significant for a law firm.
So the value proposition, if I'm a PI firm and engage your company to use your services, is that you can get a better settlement quicker.
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm of the belief, and the data does demonstrate that the first 90 days of a case is really the where leverage for a firm is built or lost. And that really, when I kind of honed in, it really starts with the medical record. So yeah, the value proposition is if you have the right medical record from the very crux of your case and the very starting, the ultimate starting point, the inferred value beyond that is tremendous.
So I guess geographically, we're not limited. If I'm in California, you're in Puerto Rico. If I sign up for your services and we get the MRI, you can do this all remotely, correct?
Well, yeah, so for us, we're teleradiology, so we can read for anywhere, anytime. But the real key is to go to know where facilities are in your area that carry our report, or if we're not in your area and you have existing relationships, we always encourage lawyers to make the intro. It's a pretty easy sell. Hey, do you want to have more value for everyone involved, and for all the advocates for the patient and the patient themselves? So we, yeah, if they get an MRI and we're the treating doctors for that facility, then they get the benefit of this report off the bat. Of course, they can also do second opinions, and we do those a lot, and a lot of expert witness services. But the truth of the matter is, if you have a very powerful, singular, objective piece of medical evidence from the very start of your case, you probably don't need us for a second opinion, or anyone else for that matter.
How have you grown and scaled this? How have you expanded from when you started?
Yeah, so I mean, the practice started decades ago, but as a result of this new report, which is really kind of what's moving and shaking the scales significantly, we've tripled in size in a year. We were already growing organically, doubling in size year after year for many years now, but since this report, we've had to triple our number of radiologists growing every day. Demand and geographical imprint is it has been widely expanded, and we've just gotten to interact with so many more patients and people. It's been great.
So this is a family business, you and your husband. I assume you have other employees and contractors as well.
Oh yeah, we have a pretty large practice now, much, much, much larger than we ever imagined.
So tell me about the pros and cons of working with your spouse.
Oh, yes. Everyone always is curious about that. I think that it's more pros than cons, at least in our house. We luckily and fortunately tend to see eye to eye, and we are very good at communicating without any sort of, um, I don't know, like barriers or walls. I think when you work with a spouse, maybe that's good or maybe that's bad. If you're able to receive all the information unfiltered, then it can be a real value add. And I think in our household it is. It's hard to turn it off. I always love when I listen to these like podcasts and other people that are like, oh, you just need to like draw a line and say like Thursday night we're going to go to dinner and we're not talking about this or we're not talking about that. For me, that's incredibly unrealistic in our world, and so we are constantly talking about work. But it's kind of cool. You get to be with a sounding board all the time.
How, if at all, and I assume you are, incorporating artificial intelligence and process automation into what you're doing?
Sure. So we get asked that a lot, and medicine is sort of an interesting place. I was interviewed the other day, and I said we're big fans of AI. I think that it is absolutely the wave of the future. For medicine right now, AI specifically in our field, it's just not at the level. One of the things that we do as a practice that's somewhat unique to our practice, we have an entire team of subspecialized radiologists, and they read with an incredibly high level of sensitivity and accuracy. And AI just doesn't have that database of information at this time. So we don't use it in our reads at this time. But I do think that there will be, hopefully in the coming years, a point where it can be relied on and more systematically and more consistently. And I think that we hope to be at the forefront of that. We're certainly always looking at it and interested in collaborations.
I know a lot of PI firms employ nurses to go through medical records and evaluate and pull together information. And a lot of them are turning to AI tools, not to replace the nurses,
No,
but to filter through the 40,000 documents that the nurse needs to look at down to the most important things. And so I
of
do
course.
think that's the big differentiator in a lot of AI solutions.
It can
Hey, I want to
process so
turn our
much
attention.
information.
Right. And it just helps them focus on what's important. Not that they don't
Absolutely.
need to consider everything, but not waste their time going through 38,000 documents that aren't important.
Sure.
I want to turn our attention to forecasting. How do you dynamically forecast your growth, and do you go through a process of forecasting what 2026 is going to look like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now?
Yeah, of course. I mean, information and a direct plan and pathway is critical to any organization's growth, I would think. For us, yeah, we're always trying to, we're always analyzing what's been, right? So in terms of our forecasting, we build off of what existed in the years prior. So as I previously mentioned, our growth has been tremendous and we've been scaling, exponentially at this point. And so making sure that we understand what our biggest drivers and values are. And so we focus in on those and we really prioritize making sure that those are attended to and we build our modeling around that.
Yeah, I would think your revenue drivers are number of new cases, average value, and then of course your cost side is probably pretty predictable, right? Based on employees or contractors.
Yes, our cost size, and of course, our cost size today is high because we employ doctors, and doctors are a significant labor cost. But yes, it for us, it's a pretty much a volume based business. So in that sense, making sure that volume, continues to increase and improve at rates that have, been proven year after year and that are sustainable, as well as ones that are goals. So we focus on volume, and it's also for us footprint. The more places we are, it's of course ultimately that would impact volume, but just the more available our reports are. So we're also focusing on like kind of just like new growth, new placement of the product as well.
Are a lot of your doctors, is this a sideline for them? That, so in other words, they have a practice and they do this, or they do this exclusively?
It's varied. They're all over the place. Most of them work full time with us, but not all do. And we're very, very flexible. What's very cool about the way we've done our, kind of hiring and our modeling, our model for the radiologist is extraordinarily flexible. They can really work from anywhere, anytime, as much as they want. And so it gives a lot of freedom to the types of hires. Our biggest barrier is that we just can't hire them fast enough. There's not enough radiologists to go around sometimes, but once they join us, we don't lose them.
Any plans or ability to expand outside the footprint of the United States?
Yes, we have been approached by international markets because, I mean, putting sort of the law firms is somewhat tangential to us. For us, it's really about healthcare, right? We are a medical practice, and so we've been approached by, I mean, so many other international markets to bring this patient comprehension model. Because what's unique about our report, beyond besides just the high quality read and all and kind of the other features, what's particularly special that we do is we created we hired hand. Let me try that again. It's too early in the day here. Okay, we hired world class illustrators, all the best medical illustrators we could find from quite literally all around the world to hand draw every possible, it's called a permutation, every possible outcome for, every sort of injury, et cetera. And so it turns out that this is like, I thought it was trillions, but someone told me, I don't know, it's like quintillions. I don't know. There's like so many possible combinations. It's incredible. And so anyway, we built a database that pulls together that particular patient's pathology and injuries in such a way that it demonstrates your problem, not a sample, not someone else's. It's not generic. It's actually that specific patient's pathology, and it's a medical illustration that a child can understand. So the impact in international spaces where medical care is very, very different than the US is that it can communicate to a patient so much with so little extra burden placed on the medical system to explain it. Think about it. If you've been injured, John, you go to a doctor, they say you need to go get an MRI, then like you maybe get that information back, you don't understand it, you're calling your doctor, you're asking questions, you're going into your doctor and requiring extra time to better understand and comprehend. But if you could have understood what the problem was the minute you got that report, you're going to have a very different quality conversation and time and effective conversation with your medical care provider. So for international markets where it's even more burdened in many cases, their time with the doctor is more limited, this is a really valuable tool.
Well, and you're right, especially when you get an MRI and you have the 48 to 72 hours before you hear from the doctor. There's a lot of anxiety and angst that goes on during that time.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
very fortunate that my doctor's a friend of mine, so he usually
Yeah.
calls me 2 hours later and says, "Hey, you got nothing to worry about."
Do you want
But
to know
not everybody
something?
has that situation.
You're exactly right, and obviously being married to one, I mean, this is what happens in our life too, right? People call and they say, "Hey, can you look at this for me? Like, will you tell me? I'm so nervous." And so, yeah, this patient comprehension is such a important element of medical care as we're like growing into the future. Hospital systems everywhere, here and abroad, are really focusing on it. There's even higher reimbursements for this. It's just so important now for us as humans to be able to understand what's going on, and the ease of those interactions, it's really significant.
So realizing that technology is moving really fast, faster than we've ever experienced, what's the next innovation or iteration of your product or an expansion into a different service line that you anticipate?
Yeah, sure. So we've started with brain and spine because the largest number of MRIs performed every year are spine, actually. So that's where we started our practice, and obviously, it's where we have had the most expertise, being that the practice was started by a neuroradiologist who specializes in brain and spine. So that's where we started. But we have a whole bunch of new body parts. We just rolled out knee illustrations last week, shoulders forthcoming. So the full MSK picture is coming. And then we also have, what we're really excited about is mammograms. For that exact reason, patients, I mean, you've probably not had to go get yourself a mammogram, but as a woman who has, it is so nerve wracking to sit there and wait and hear that everything is okay or isn't okay. I mean, it's just such a, they send you home sometimes with a picture, like a printed picture, which is insufficient information from like an ultrasound, and you're like, what is that thing that I'm seeing here, and why is this thing red? And then you're trying to figure it out, and then you're completely misguided. So we're really excited about mammogram. That's actually been the toughest one to illustrate too. Very, very, so many possibilities and so much to demonstrate in those illustrations.
Well, and you're so right. When you get those partial results, or you start to Google what
Oh, it's
might
worse.
happen,
It's
yeah,
worse.
it's just you go down a rabbit hole that's horrible.
Oh, I mean,
But
I
it,
do it with my own husband. I'm like, okay, here's the symptoms, or even with our kids, and I'm like, okay, here's all the symptoms. Here's everything. I've decided that it's this problem and we need this medication. He's like, when did you go to medical school? And I'm like, he's like, stop, control yourself, dial it back, call the pediatrician. But, even I do it. And so it's what we all do. And so the idea that we could have something that impacts that that process in people's lives. It's just to reduce the number of worrying hours, you know?
well, we live in this world of instant gratification, right? Social media hits us with quick clips. You go to fast food, you watch NCIS, and they get the DNA back in 2 minutes instead of 2 weeks.
Right.
So hopefully you can provide that quicker entry to information. That would be great.
Yeah.
Um, what's the exit plan? I mean, at some point you're going to grow and scale this, and somebody's going to say, "Boy, we'd like to have that."
Oh man, I mean, people are already saying that. We get asked this quite a lot, and we're getting all sorts of interesting calls. I guess when you're on what it was like the Inc. 500 or whatever fastest growing companies for a few years in the row. I think this year we were like the seventh fastest growing like healthcare or something in healthcare. I'm not sure, and we don't really stock too much attention in those types of things, but other people do. It turns out, and so I don't know. We don't really have. We don't. I don't just fundamentally, we didn't build anything in our lives with the anticipation of exit. Of course, it's always there, but I think that we build things because we believe in them, and we build things that we want to wake up and do each day and participate in each day. I think that if you had told us, you know, even 20 years ago, whatever, maybe 10 years ago, when we really started down this pathway, that we would have a practice with, 24, 25, I think today, as of today or last week, radiologists that are not just any radiologists, but so specialized, working with us and supporting our ideas and our goals and our dreams in themselves, as a result of this amazing product. We would have like looked at you like had 10 heads and an extra eye, like we would have been like, huh, okay. But I think when you get up every day and do something because it's what you want to do and you want to be building towards something, I guess exit isn't really something we're focusing on, at least not right now.
But you don't have any direct competitors, right? That
Not
do
well,
exactly what you do?
I mean, there's lots of other radiology practices
Right.
and other expert witnesses, but there's no one else who has this report, and it is patent pending. We're still waiting on the answer for that. We thought we would have it last week. So, but yeah, no, it is truly one of a kind and
So you
unmatched in its benefits.
so you live and work in Puerto Rico. Where do you vacation? Since a lot of people go to your area to vacation.
Right. Well,
Where do you
so
vacation?
we like to go actually, I mean, obviously anywhere with like great history, Europe and whatever, obviously amazing. But in general, we like to go to cities because that's very opposite of what we have on the daily.
So you wanna go where the snow and cold is?
Yeah, exactly. I love to ski. So anytime we can get somewhere cold that we can, be outdoors skiing or active, that's great. Or cities, like New York, and go see shows and go to all the restaurants and walk around. I think that's the big takeaway, the ability to walk everywhere.
So, being from Puerto Rico, I gotta ask you before we wrap up about, the Super Bowl. I assume you watched the halftime show,
Oh, yes, of course. I think I'd be
and
kicked out of Puerto Rico if I didn't watch that halftime show.
you are clearly a Bad Bunny fan, correct?
Yes. Bad Bunny is,
Favorite favorite Bad Bunny song that he sang at the halftime show?
uh-oh, you're putting me on the spot. I'm terrible at
Okay,
this.
favorite Bad Bunny song.
Favorite Bad Bunny song ever. I can't say it. It has bad words. It has a bad title. It has a bad word title.
Well well, thank God that it was in
But
Spanish so that
if you follow Bad Bunny, you'll know which one that is.
well, yeah, I'm sure my children know that song.
For sure,
I
for
enjoyed the
sure.
I enjoyed the halftime show. I didn't I'm not bilingual, so I didn't understand it, but, you could get the dance moves and
The energy
the
of it, and I think
imagery.
that that's really
Yeah.
what Bad Bunny is about anyway. I mean, words aside, it's just like any other. I mean, we can think of any English speaking rap artist, and we can say that there's words that we can't say there or wouldn't necessarily even follow at times. But we can always feel the energy and the beat and the rhythms. And like, I thought it was a visually incredible show, all the dancing and all the kind of the way he built the set. And if you had seen his concert in person in Puerto Rico, it's all built with truly, you can see scenes of Puerto Rico, current scenes of Puerto Rico. If you were to drive around, you'd be like, you could see that this was so reminiscent and so representative. And I thought that was really cool to see.
Well, of course, the wedding at the time, I thought, "Oh, this is just fake," but then I read afterwards that really was a real, wedding, that he invited that couple there to get married.
He did. They were a real wedding. And I just thought that he really tackled so many, there were so many little parts and pieces of what he did that really are the way that things feel and exist. It's like, I think at one point you saw like the little boy like asleep at the wedding, like on the chairs, because everyone was still dancing around. And this is like and at least in my experience, this is like the Puerto Rican vibe. The kids are everywhere, they're invited to everything. I always love to say, for my friends, I grew up in South Florida, and I love that you can go to like the nicest restaurant in Puerto Rico with young kids, and if they're misbehaving, no one cares, no one's upset, no one's disrupted by this. It's just like, yep, that's the way it is, that's life, kids. And I think that's really one of my most favorite, one of the most beautiful parts of Puerto Rico. It's so family oriented.
So you don't reach over and pinch them so they behave?
Well, I mean, I try, but my kids, of course, they're perfect. They're perfect all the time.
Mine were never perfect. They were great, but they're not perfect.
I don't think that exists.
Before we wrap up, Cara, how can folks get a hold of you and the company?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the easiest way, obviously, you can find all of us readily accessible via our website, which is www.expertradiology.com. I'm available on all sorts of social media. I don't know if you'll be plugging it in places, but obviously Instagram, LinkedIn.
Are you on TikTok yet?
I'm not on TikTok. My daughter is pushing for this, but I'm a little bit intimidated.
We will publish on YouTube, LinkedIn Live, TikTok, and Instagram. So we'll share that with you as well.
Sounds great.
Hey, thank you, Cara, for joining us. And thank you all for tuning in to Judicial Dollars and Cents. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure and like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us grow and ensures that you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.